It is great to welcome back to the show. She's been with us a couple of times before. The great prolific author of her latest book, now out in paperback, called The Kept Woman. And Karin Slaughter joined us by telephone today. And Karin, I was looking through, I believe we talked to you about 6-7 months ago when the book came out in hard copy, and before that when the previous book came out. So good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you.
How's it been going for you? I guess we talked when the Kept Woman came out last year in hardcover, so congratulations on the success of that. It's been quite a whirlwind for you, I imagine.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, and I'm really happy. The book came out in paperback a couple of weeks ago, and people seem to be picking it up for their vacations, and I've been getting lots of responses on Facebook and stuff like that, so it's always nice to hear.
I was going to ask, when the book comes out, obviously in hardcover first, and your fans usually get right to it, but you hear a lot over the ensuing months from the fans about the book, and then I guess they probably ask when the paperback comes out too, right?
Absolutely, and price point is important for a lot of book buyers, and they wait for the paperback, or they just prefer a paperback, and so I think it's great that there are different formats that different people can read.
Yeah, summertime coming up. That's a lot of people down, I guess, everywhere, but they go to the beach or wherever they go and take the paperback. It's good entertainment for people, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's what I do.
Well, let's, again, for the folks that may not have been with us before, a little recap of the story. Of course, it's part of your Will Trent series. He's with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and he gets on a case, and I'll let you explain it from there.
Well, like a lot of my Will Trent books, it opens up with Will being very happy, and his work is going great. His love life is going great. His new girlfriend, Sarah Linton, is working at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, where Will works as an agent. She's taken over as medical examiner, and he's really happy. And then something horrible happens. He gets called out to a crime scene, and Sarah is there. And they realize that in some iteration, Will's wife, who he has been trying to desperately make his ex-wife, might be involved either as a perpetrator or a victim in a very gruesome murder.
And that's where the fun begins.
Exactly.
Well, again, I probably asked you before, but I guess, we have new listeners now. Will Trent, based on, you live in Georgia, so I guess you've dealt with somebody similar to that, or met people like that, or how did the character come about?
Well, the character was really a response to something I thought was missing in a lot of the crime novels I was reading. I wanted to read about someone who wasn't perfect, and Will certainly isn't perfect. He also has a disability. He's dyslexic, and this means he can read, but it takes him a while to read, and he has a language processing issue. But despite this, or maybe because of it, he's a really good detective. And a lot of the cases he handles are based on things that happen here in Georgia or in states close by. And with The Kept Woman, the story was kind of a germ of a seed that came out of a story I read about an athlete who was accused of sexually assaulting a woman. And basically the athlete's fans hounded this woman out of town and made her drop the case because they were giving her death threats, and she was in fear of her life. And she finally moved away and changed her name just to get out from under the shadow of this horrible thing that had happened to her.
And you're based, or you've lived in Atlanta. You're a Georgia native, so I imagine the details of the book. You live there, so you kind of make it accurate as far as where these crimes and where the characters go, right? I try to.
It's good that I've lived here all my life, but it's also bad. I don't know about you, but I forget the name of roads, and I can tell you the country directions. Take a left at this sign and a right at this house that has a white dog out there. But I'm not good with streets, so sometimes writing, even in my own neighborhood, I have to go and figure out what the street names are and which is a one-way street and which isn't.
Will Trent, now you've written that character a few times now. I would imagine it evolves as a writer evolves. I guess new things come up or new things you discover about the character, right, as you write about him?
You're absolutely correct. And, the thing is, I think when you write a series character, you have to decide, is that character going to change and grow, or is the character going to be the same in each book? And, either way can work great. I love reading Jack Reacher by Lee Child. I love reading that character, but he's never going to have a moment where he sits around and stares at his navel and wonders about his life. You know, he's an American James Bond. But then I also love other books like a Michael Connelly or Lisa Gardner, who delve into the characters, and they're impacted by what happens to them, and they're different in the following story. And Will definitely is of that ilk. You know, what happened to him in the first novel, Triptych, which is 10 years ago, he's still having reverberations from that. So, you know, I think it's interesting as a reader and a writer to be able to follow someone that closely and watch how they changed. And, you know, unfortunately, I've had to age along with the characters. So I think as an older person now, I see the world a little differently than I did when I started writing when I was in my early 20s.
And people are so fascinated now with all the shows on TV, CSI shows and Criminal Minds, that they really get into these types of crime stories where they want to see how people figure it out and what goes on with in the criminal minds, right? So that's kind of people are really fascinated by that.
They are, and I have to be careful because readers are very savvy, and I have to make sure I get my science right, or I'll get some angry emails saying you can't do this. So it's a challenge for me, but it's a good challenge.
Again, the name of this book is The Kept Women. The one we also talked about, the Pretty Girls book right before that. That was a standalone novel, so that wasn't a Will Trent story, right? That was a separate story. Is that right?
That's right. And, I had so much fun writing that standalone novel. It was a big challenge for me to write from the point of view of characters who weren't police officers, and I wanted to do that again. So my next novel, which is out in August, is called The Good Daughter, and that's told from the point of view of lawyers. It was really hard not to kill all of them because they were lawyers, but I thought, let me write about how they deal with what's going on in this small town, which I've placed in North Georgia in the mountains.
Are you always I guess you have to, as a novel writer, always thinking about plot lines and characters? They just kind of run through your head? Or if you see some person, you say, hey, that would make a nice part of my character, and just kind of study them for a little bit? Or is that how you go about it?
I do. I feel like I keep a catalog of different character defects and flaws and interesting things that people do in my head. And I travel quite a bit for my books, touring, so I'm in airports a lot. And anyone who's ever been in an airport knows that that's a great place to study some crazy people.
No doubt about that, no. Well, again, the book is the paperback version, just out a couple of weeks ago, The Kept Woman. And, again, a very successful book in hardcover, and will be as well in the paperback version. And, Karin, give out your website once again. People can get more information about the book.
KarinSlaughter.com. It's Karin with an I, or I'm on Facebook, Twitter, all of those things.
Great. And Karin, I know you said the next one's coming out in August, so we'll look forward to talking to you at that time. But in the meantime, everybody get out, enjoy this book. It's some good summertime reading. And Karin, great to talk with you, and we'll do it again soon.
You too. Thanks.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or DougMilesMedia.com.